Yeah, this is 5.6, everyone.
All right.
Feel free to ask questions as we go through, and we will
So let's see.
answer them.
Add a graphic to include when all skill lines need to be trained as a prerequisite for another node.
Yeah, I hope
That's
everyone.
actually good. Yeah, this little dotted.
I hope people are noticing that, because there is on most of the connections between two nodes. You'll notice that there's a dotted line. That dotted line represents the amount of pips you need in the previous node to unlock the next one. So it's not just random. Hey, here's some dotted lines. The dotted lines actually have meaning.
Let's see. Removed all way of the leader passive skill nodes from the profession skill trees, which I believe you've placed.
I created the new command skill tree. The idea there was I was trying to get the profession basics trees to like the I think it was 30 days. I wanted to make it so that you could get through that guy in like a 30 to 60 range, and those command skills were just so advanced that they were boosting up the time of the base trees. So it also made sense to put them in kind of their own tree. So those basics trees are now balanced around getting you through pretty quickly. In fact, the first couple nodes are 5 hours to 5 pip them. So it's an hour a pip. Yeah, they're pretty quick.
Created new command skill, which is just all the stuff you just said. Completely rebalanced skill node XP. All curves are less of a dogleg, more of a straight line. Right? Did a lot of work on that. Again, kind of what you just sort of said, but pretty much for all the skill nodes, right? So
yeah, basically all the way through. The idea was that everybody was just kind of bum rushing through the trees as fast as possible, and you were basically never going back to get the fifth pip in anything. And actually, the trees look really good when you have everything 5 pip because you get the special little piece of artwork. It also was because basically we divided the value up equally 5 times. However, the final slice of the pie was pretty much the cost of half of the entire pie, which made it that last node really just wasn't worth it.
Yeah, it was just a slog.
So we normalized all of it, and what you'll see now is that it may not be beneficial to rush to the end because the node that you're going to train from 4 to 5 right here is cheaper than the first pip in the next node. So now there's a little bit of decision making you have to do is if you really want to rush through the tree, or if you actually want to stay there and 5 pip a lot of things, which because they're cheaper, I think you are going to. Any thought on turning down the 75 requirement as it forces a lot of time and skills? Many combat people would seem optional as best. Most of them were tuned down such that you needed 2/3, I think, of the tree before you could advance. Some of the combat ones were increased. So again, we're futzing with numbers.
Definitely let us know.
Yeah.
How you feel.
We make the last node of all the trees more interesting, having to take all the branches to get to the last node. Yeah, there's a piece of tech I would like to get, Soul Reaver, which is the mastery box. I don't want it connected to any of those nodes. It'll just sit off the side, and when you train the whole tree, that guy will go active. So it won't just be you need to 5 pip the final 3 or 4 nodes. You'll actually need to train the whole tree to unlock that thing, but that means because it's so expensive to get there, we can make it more powerful.
Right, and it means
it really is a mastery box.
Yeah, truly, and I mean there's still there's actually still some tech you want for exactly like the ability to give recipes or even abilities or whatever, but there's still things we can do and actually plan on doing to make the mastery boxes beefy, right?
Yeah,
make them worth the time to put into them. So certainly not done working on what the boxes themselves give, particularly the mastery.
With map clusters coming, will we possibly see a drag soon? Well, that's a 5.7 thing. Hopefully the clusters will be working. Basically, my dinosaur keeps changing colors. Good job, Gibson. Gibson always likes to keep it fresh, everyone. Is it intended to have philosophers so late in the game? I kind of liked 5.5 Alchemy. It hadn't a lot, but felt nice. Now it's not really worth it at the moment.
I think you mean the Philosopher's Stone?
Yeah, the recipe is now at the end of the research line. So a lot of those additives, basically the idea was the additives all went into the 4th research node in the current trees. So it's an additive. Like armor layers are all the way at the end there as well. That is intention. You'll notice that there's a pattern between all the trees. Additives generally went on the final one. The weapons that were granted by the weapon mastery disciplines, for example, they're on the second to last node. So there was some rhyme and reason to how we did ration those things out. So yes, it is intended. While it's a small part of the game, it's already something we're trying to make work. Guilds, it would be really nice to have. Yes. I am not sure. So Gordon has been handling the guild stuff because that is part of our web architecture. It's not part of our... Art engineers don't have to write that. So that's part of the group that is maintaining all of our entitlements and all of that other stuff. So I'm not sure how that is tracking. It's not that we haven't forgotten about guilds or wanted to do guilds. It's just that we are not doing them. With the caves, one of the people has to fight most of the time, so adjust it maybe the mob spot rate so you will not stand. We are still working at the rates of spawn and all of that stuff. Don't even think that what we have currently is representative. I mean, we just got the day and the night mobs hooked up in the 5-7 branch. So that's going to change timing too, because everything's going to start morphing.
It's like you'll be in the middle and everything will be fine, and then all of a sudden night falls and it's a different story.
Yeah. So, is there any word on 5-6 hitting live? Yeah, we're waiting for a couple last blockers to get cleared up, and then we're going to push it live. Yeah, the Nate stuff is pretty cool.
It's very cool.
I just been sitting in Greybox World watching the sun kind of go through the sky.
A very, very quick night-day cycle.
Yeah, it's super fast right now, so we can test things.
Yeah. I was actually watching the sunrise and sunset over the course of like 2 minutes. Like, yeah, that's very pretty.
Yeah, but if we're testing stuff, we kind of need those speeds because otherwise you wouldn't want to sit there and wait for it. Any breakthrough on performance in large-scale combat? That's what engineering is working on right now, Tark. Which is why we're kind of holding things. Player movement. Fixed a hitch while trying to switch to stealth tray while airborne. In fact, that was later fixed in another way.
Yeah, fixed with the bigger hammer.
Which is you can't go stealth while you're not grounded. Player with masters of bows should now be able to jump while in the range tray. Sprint is now a client immediate hold and release power. So is it jump?
I think.
I want to say it's jump as well. Basically, we put a bunch of stuff to be client immediate so it looked good from a blending perspective, and it didn't seem like it was pausing for a quarter of a second. Which, interestingly, I've been reading some reports on the forums that people are saying powers feel like there is a slight delay after they activate it. So we need to bug QA to look at that. Apply fly direction for powers that have a vertical root motion without waiting for liftoff, since some jumps have a slight skid before takeoff. Okay. Fixed an issue with walk was getting stuck after any move interaction. Oh, walk was the other one that we made client immediate. And in fact, it was happening on every single thing that you did, and then you were trapped in walk mode. C is currently the toggle for walk. Walk is now a toggle power. So know that if you turn it on, it will stay on until you toggle it off. The C key probably isn't the best spot because people keep fat fingering it because it's right there in your space jumping madness area. So we should put that off to the side to an appropriate one, and then you can remap it to whatever you want to, but C is not a good default for that. So balance and the ultimate. Some classes gain soul power faster than others. They can pre-charge it.
Well, actually, what I would like to actually know an example of what class can gain soul power more quickly than another. Some classes have more cheap soul power costs, so they can get to the point where they can use their soul power more quickly. But everybody uses the same passive under the hood to grant them soul power when you cause damage, take damage.
It's also ticking, so it doesn't.
Right, it's ticking, so it doesn't rate of it. I mean,
stack.
very specifically designed to work around issues of, well, this class hits physically does more hits than this class, and more designed to be like, are you attacking? Great, as long as you're continuing your attack, you will keep trickling away. So that shouldn't be true. If it is, I'd be curious to know where or why, because it's unintended behavior. Pre-charging, I mean, you shouldn't, like, by pre-charging, if you mean fighting mobs, that's, to me, is not pre-charging, right? That's not without risk, right? I mean, even if you're just still fighting boars, you were paying the cost of wear and tear on all your equipment and whatnot, right? So you're paying for the cost of fighting that boar. It's still damaging your equipment while you do it. So that is a non-zero cost.
And we disabled it from things like dummies anyway.
Right,
So,
you shouldn't be able to do it on dummies. Basically, you shouldn't be able to do it without risk, right?
Right.
And so,
yeah.
if there are examples of that, please let us know because we want to basically nip those in the bud, right? So, like, obviously, like Blair just said, can't gain it while attacking a dummy. You can't get it from healing yourself. We want you to be able to get it from healing others, but not yourself. Things like that.
You can't shoot bows as well as left mouse button while jumping, except for the Fesser.
Yeah, we'll have to look at that.
Huh.
Write that down with your word maker.
With my word
Your
maker?
analog word creation device. We'll look at it when we get back to our desks.
All right, what else we got?
So Ranger Rapid Fire gives soul power faster because they can attack faster. Incorrect. Ranger Rapid Fire should not give soul power any more quickly than anything else because it's applying an overtime effect.
Yeah, it's
Right. So that's specifically what I was talking about when we're talking about the number of hits Class A does versus B. I think you will find it actually doesn't charge it any more quickly than just doing normal basics. So.
Yep. Yeah, that's what we did on DC, right?
Exactly. That is exactly where I got that idea.
This is the exact thing that we did on DCUO, which is
that was my my answer to the to that very
right. So to sum that up, some classes can attack fast. This is an age-old problem of the Daggers Rogue. They attack so fast and they proc more often. Versus classes that have like big, slow, heavy two-handers, we basically normalize them by
make it a regen.
Yep, we make it a regen thing, and that way it doesn't stack with itself. It can refresh itself, but basically you're not getting, for example, in the case of rapid fire, you don't get essentially 10 ticks, and the slow guy gets 1.
And I believe the regen time, we can look, but I believe the regen time is 3.5 seconds, specifically because Rangers have a 3-second charging basic, right? So I mean, as long as you are consistently attacking with whatever you got, it should be charging up at the same rate.
You can cancel with jumping the animation of some abilities, so you can save with the right timing some minutes. Think that works as well with the Fesser. Well,
jump like we.
Jump isn't an interrupt or a cancel.
Right, you shouldn't be able to jump cancel anything. You can dodge cancel, but again, dodge canceling for the purposes of cutting down your animation time or whatever, I'm fine with that because you're paying a dodge point to do that, right? I mean,
it also
and if you do it too early, like I think you were about to say, you don't get any effect, right? You have to be it kind of takes skill to know when the effect is going to apply, and you can cancel without losing. And you're still paying the cost too, right? You pay the cost on activation, right? So you pay the activation cost, and then if you dodge too early, then you get nothing out of it. That's why I personally don't mind dodge canceling that much.
Yes. Okay.
Shouldn't be able to jump cancel. Shouldn't be able to jump cancel.
Yeah, I would love a video if you have one. Okay. Are these pre-alpha versions counting up or down to anything? We keep incrementing it by 0.1 every time. 5.7 is in progress right now. 5.6 is in the final stages of the bug fixing, and then we'll start talking about 5.8 after that. I mean, it just any updates on the developments of crafting factories or blueprints? No, they're going to be after the next phase of crafting, which is the crafting projects and that whole new UI. Frostweaver has designed, been approved. We still need to have a meeting with tech to see if we can do all the fancy things we want to do. That's all that's holding that one up, and then scheduling it out for when we should implement it. Can you clarify the difference between leather and plate armor? Is it only mitigation?
So leather armor actually also gives you a damage bonus.
Mm-hmm. It also gives you a healing bonus.
Yes, damage and healing bonus. This is true. This is true. Yes, so that's probably the biggest reason you'd want to wear leather over plate is because you want to do more damage and for at the cost of getting less mitigation and less health too. So.
Yes, the mitigation is that low on purpose. I think it baselines at 10%, or is it 5%?
I don't remember.
It's been a while,
but it's lower.
It's clearly lower than plate.
Will duelists ever be able to swap between range and melee depending on weapon disc like most other classes? You mean, I assume you mean by having a separate tray like Ranger? Probably not, because that sort of, the design of the duelist is to be first, sort of that mixed range and melee, mid-range kind of character, and then if you want a full, want to make the duelist a full range thing, there's a pistol mastery, weapon mastery discipline that you can get.
Correct. So they don't get another tray. You pick one or the other. Yeah. It's an either-or situation for those guys. Is this game action combat? Yes, it is. It is primarily a reticle-based target, so you have to be somewhat good at aiming. Let's see.
That they're mocking you.
Yes. That's right. Any information on the possible design details that have been okayed but not sure that can be implemented?
Possible.
Oh, Frostweaver.
Perhaps. Oh, Frostweaver. Okay.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about them because then it's a promise.
Yeah.
And then we broke our promise if we can't have those things, because I did ask for quite a lot on that one. I currently live in Australia. Wondering if there are going to be any West US servers. It wouldn't surprise me because our limitation on where our servers are is based on where Amazon has AWS servers.
Avatar's West.
Is Avatar West?
Yep.
But is there AWS stuff on Australia?
We will have. I think there's going to be. We have put up Australian servers in the past.
Okay.
It's just that there's not a huge population on those. So, from what I remember, there will be. Like that area will have its own servers.
Great. So we have the capability to do it, and we have done it in the past. We just found that we didn't have a lot of people playing in Australia yet.
Yep.
And when we have that, then I'm pretty sure we'll... Yep. Yeah, basically anywhere that we can prop a Amazon server, we can go ahead and spool up game servers. Yeah, that's right. I remember the Sydney one. What can you tell us about future or viable wins in the future campaign worlds? That's going to be interesting, Durenthal. As soon as we have cluster worlds online, we can start thinking about that stuff. Because we have to go back in and rewrite it anyways, because now that we have multiple worlds, it's just not going to work. Because right now, they would all look at their own zone, essentially, for a win condition. I've come from a game where equally geared people can die in seconds once crowd controlled. Is this game going to be any similar? How quickly can assassins assassinate?
Yeah, so couple things on that. For one, we're trying to have a time to kill of 15-ish seconds. Now, granted, obviously there's a lot of variation on that, but you should be able to basically survive long enough to retaliate and muster a counterattack, right? We have a basically our anti-CC thing that we use is called retaliate, and as long as you have stamina, you can retaliate. So if you get CC'd, I believe the longest you're going to get CC'd is, I think, 5 seconds. But if you have the stamina to retaliate, which stamina comes back very quickly, you'll be able to cancel that CC at a touch of a button and hopefully mount a counterattack. And after retaliation, you have a small window of time that you can't be crowd controlled again. Your character gets a little shader for just a couple of seconds, but it's enough time for you to potentially give a response to the person who is melting your face. So,
yes. And there are skills and things that you can train to either make CCs longer or make CCs shorter. Right. There is the skew of skill training on top of that.
Right, because I mean, unlike a shooter where it's basically whoever can draw a bead and get the headshot first wins. Right, this is more of a more of a tactical game. At least one on one or many on many.
Is there any glaive wielding classes? The closest we have to glaives right now are polearms for the centaur racials, which I prototyped. I just haven't added them back into the game yet. But the centaurs as a racial weapon, because then everyone is going to ask, where's my racial weapon?
Yeah.
Because the centaurs get everything as well as the first racial weapon, because we had them on hand. But their racial weapon is the polearm, or poleaxe and polemace. I wanted the polearm for the Elkin.
Mm-hmm. But that is a slippery slope we will jump down one day.
Are class abilities dependent on the weapon equipped? Like Champion Rend, is that crushing or slashing, or is it based on what the weapon is equipped?
Some of them require a specific weapon. Most all of them, I want to say all of them right now, just require whatever your class uses as a weapon. So,
and then
even though, so I guess the correct answer to that is, though we could do that, we're not doing that right now.
Okay. I thought Banner offered a damage convert to electricity.
I think
sure.
I believe it does.
Does. I think there's a ticket in on the fact that it wasn't actually converting it.
Yeah.
Basically, we're overloading the damage. I heard some class abilities were specific damage types regardless of what weapon is equipped.
Yeah. So I mean, there are abilities that do, like, for example, like a lot of Confessor abilities. Well, Confessor weapon that's a bad choice. But like Templar, for example, has a few, like their field, that name escapes me, but does fire damage, for example, right? And some of the some of the champions' abilities specifically do crushing damage. So even if you're wielding a a bladed weapon, it'll still do crushing damage. So, but those I believe should be called out.
Well, we see new weapon disciplines for Bastard Swords, Short Swords, etc. I believe the Master of Great Swords is still the same as Master of Swords. Will this be changing at some point? At some point,
probably.
I would still like to get a way to differentiate the weapons with speed, haste effects, whatever. But it's a whole bunch of tech because we have to speed up the animation, we have to speed up the playback of the sound and the effects. So there's a whole
lot of unknowns,
a lot of slew of work there in speeding stuff up. But that is how we would make two long swords deal. One being able to be a big hitter and one being able to be a fast swinger. How many players can be on screen at a time? We haven't really done a lot of that, or at least I haven't. I know the engineer who's been working on that has what they call the character zoo, where they just load up hundreds of characters to... I think we showed a screenshot of that in the last video, in the 5.5 video.
Yeah, there's a clip of it.
It's called the character zoo. What about classes that can use multiple weapon types? Like all Knight Shield abilities are crushing. Well, all the Knight Shield abilities are crushing because the shields are supposed to be crushing, right? Basically, we're simulating that you're hitting with the shield. That's why all of the Knight Shield weapon or shield attacks are crushing. Because it would be silly if I got slashed with the shield. When can we expect to see mounts in game for testing? That is a future. The doc has been written. It's been through code. So that one's more of a when are we going to schedule it?
Yeah.
And it is 12:01.
That is correct.
Yes. Okay, so you're welcome, Blazin. And Arcade's going to sharpen the edges of his shield. Great. Oh, that's a good question. Are you planning any weapon on hit procs? People like proc tunes. Yep, we we use procs all the time.
Yeah.
I think I have a prototype mace in there that has a proc fire attack on it.
Yeah. So it's been prototyped, and we can do it, and you probably bet you we will. So.
Yeah, we just don't have a good way to add the proc to that actual object, but that's a future ask. But at least we can make it work. But today we are going to show you some of the stuff that we have been working on in 5.7. Yes, that's right. As you guys are seeing 5.6, that means that we've already been working behind the scenes on 5.7, which is the next thing that you guys will see soon-ish as 5.6 replaces 5.5, and then 5.7, and the cycle continues, and so on and so forth. So one of the bigger keynotes that 5.7 is based around is seasons.
I see. So let's see. Looks like you get 30, so in spring you get what, 30
extra percent
of whatever that stat does.
Apples.
30% to apples. And 2 to bonus tables.
Yep.
And 10% crit chance.
That's going to be dust. That's going to be dust.
So, what you're telling me is that you get buffs based on the season.
Mm-hmm. Pretty sneaky, sis. So we basically listen for a tag, as we do all over the place in the game, and we do stuff, and we give you a bunch of buffs. And in this case, Mark went through the first one. I will also show you the last one, where at this point, apples are at -20. Plentiful Harvest is at -2. And dust is at -10%.
So you get nothing.
So basically, winter is the time for fighting and hoping you've squirreled away a bunch of resources and food so you don't starve and you don't run out of gear. This is where it's going to start to feel way more like an RTS in the sense that if you run out of resources, you're done.
You're effed.
It's not quite as bad as an RTS where if you lose an outpost early, you basically have lost the game and you didn't realize it. Or they kill one, like they do a Zerg rush and you lose a couple of your workers and you've pretty much lost the game at that point.
Right.
You don't know. You'll know in about 45 minutes, but you've fallen so far behind the resource curve.
Right. It does mean if you were the lazy grasshopper and did not prepare, then you're going to be a dead grasshopper.
Yes. So the names on those. So we originally went with season of whatever, season of whatever, season of something, and Gordon didn't like that because it was one more thing that he had to learn. So we've just kind of fallen back on spring, summer, fall, and winter. Yeah, guilds are not 5/7. Whoa! So we are in our. Everyone who's shown up before has clearly seen this map before. It's a little bit hazy right now, but that is because where's the sun? It's somewhere overhead. Man, look at the clouds go. Go clouds go. Let me look at some questions and then we can talk about what's going on here in the map. Put in some LRMs, LRM 20s, 10s. I don't know what that is. Will we see things added to loot tables because of their being more difficult? No, things get removed from loot tables when it gets more difficult. So the reason all along Hellcats have always had such crappy loot tables compared to everything else is because they're using their winter table, which means less meat and less hide. Can you modify existing stats with season-based tags, or is this limited? We can totally modify whatever we want based on the season. We have that system, and we can just... yeah, you guys are going to be starving if you don't have a large food supply. So the idea is once we get bigger food sources in, like briskets and things like that, which we do have right now, but a lot of people just aren't using them, that a guild will have stored away a bunch of food. Ned was right. Winter is coming. Yes. Yeah. Zombie guts definitely have a debuff, and it'll probably get worse if that becomes a valid food source. Probably provides too much food at this point, but that was put in back in a time when all we had was zombies, and I don't even know if apples existed. Does it mean you're going to get additional storage? That is a good question. We haven't quite worked out the exact numbers on how many inventory slots. Will there be weather effects like fog or rain to obscure vision? Yes, if I knew how to hit the settings, I could show you rain. Okay, you can see the sun in the distance is going down. There goes the shadows. Everything is greatly accelerated right now just so we can test. There is also a day-night tag being applied to me such that we can do, hey, look at the sun coming up, or the moon. Moon. So yeah, everything is coming up, is going super, super fast.
So if you want to find it, I think you can search for Enviro in the hierarchy. probably...
Is it this guy?
Yeah, there should be a... And it has little majiggers that
Oh, it's got the seasons. I can set
so
it in here.
Yeah, you can totally just...
Yeah, the day length in minutes right now is 4 and the night is 1. So that basically as the season progresses, those numbers will shift.
I mean, obviously you can see, just to get back to your question, that yes, your vision is obscured when it's snowing or rainy or foggy.
Or nighttime.
Or nighty.
Yeah, so we haven't started...
Oh, look at that! So very...
Everything's
very
foggy,
foggy.
probably because I have it set to heavy snow. Let's go back to clear sky. So we get our view distance back. How dark is dark? If we put torches in and decide to do things like night visions and things, dark will be fairly dark. Do remember one of the things we're going to show is at nighttime, all the NPCs are going to switch into their transform into their night form. So if you saw, I think it was the last stream where we talked about every night there's a chance for hunger shards to spawn.
Yes.
And this is one of our prototype hunger shards, and we weren't able to get one in because, hey, we're integrating a bunch of bug fixes back into our development, so I kind of didn't get any changes from yesterday. But these crystals will spawn, and the art is being changed on them. This is the prototype, but the crystal will turn off any resources nodes that are nearby. So the resources are still there. You just won't be able to harvest them. What's going on with the time here? And you will be able to harvest them if you have a currently a pick or a hammer. You can smash them. Smashing them will give you a chance for hunger shards if you have the proper skill training. Hunger shards are a weapon currently additive, so that you can add more awesomeness to your weapons. And you're just going to want to clear them out, because otherwise it's just going to shut off. Over time, if you let them accumulate and don't break some of them down, all of your resource nodes are just not going to be harvestable. I think that guy's range is probably too short to...
So is a hunger shard something you can remove by yourself, or does it require a group?
It is a solo. It is a solo node, in fact.
Well, they're asking if there are any effects to stats at night. So, like reducing farsight so that nameplates disappear closer, buffing stealth, anything like that. Any plans for that?
We could totally do that. Right now we're not doing it, but we could.
Let's see. Oh, they're asking about the day-night seasons clock in the lower
Oh, yes.
right-hand corner.
Yes, I noticed yesterday, I'm guessing because we don't have a fix that Mark has already checked in, basically we stopped taking changes into our develop branch yesterday while we merge all the fixes we've done for 5.6 back in here. So that guy just stops.
Yeah,
after,
it's
like, yeah, it's rotating.
It should be moving.
Yes,
Should be
and it's taking up a big chunk of space because we don't know, are we going to shrink that down into a little thing? The 5 hours, 50 minutes should be the amount of time that this campaign is remaining. So basically it does give us a countdown for the state of the world, which we've never had before. We need to make a pick.
So if hunger shards are going to come from hunger crystals, are they being removed from?
Yes, they are being removed from
tables.
Other loot tables.
Yeah, currently, when we built those guys as a prototype a long time ago, the only thing we had was animals. So they were placed on the animals. Yeah, you guys are going to start seeing that as we get more of our actual gameplay features. Because we built a lot of these systems back when we had two things.
Right, we're just bootstrapping stuff.
Yeah, we're basically going to pull that stuff off of those two things. Right now, I think these things drop... I think it's dropping stone. And that's just because we hooked it up to make sure that everything was working. And then Art will give us the update, and we'll just magically swap things out. But this is, again, to show you guys by the time you see this again, it will have radically changed, and it will have final art. Man, the sun won't be so fast. Things will be very gradual. This is just to show you how we build, because we build with everything so we can test it quickly. We try and get a prototype up to see if it works, see if we like it, and then we'll go off and we'll request the final art. Okay, so the Karanas, we remember. Yes, everyone remembers the Karanas. Can druids turn off the rain? Potentially, if Mark gives us hooks. Anyone can break a Hunger Shard node to re-enable the premium resources in the nearby area, but only if you're trained to get Hunger Shards will they drop on a % chance or drop. Right now, we're still working out those details on Res. Right now, the basic resource, I can imagine them dropping dust. I don't know if they will actually drop the additives unless you train into the trees. Will Confessors have fire ability debuffs when it rains? We could do that. Basically, how robust our power system is, we can always look for the presence of...
Yeah, just like whatever, right? Because, I mean, we can tell if it's night, day, summer, winter, spring.
Correct.
With that handy new passive.
The question is it worth the effort to do a lot of that stuff?
Right. And is it even fair?
Right.
Why is it, like, should you sword rust when it's raining if we're going to go hyper-realistic? You know, I mean, there's lots of...
Yeah.
There's lots of... It's a fictional black hole sometimes when you follow those things. And so.
Yes, rain could make harvestable plants food more plentiful. Yeah, we can do... There's a point that... I don't know if we've talked a lot about this in game development before, but the question shifts from a can we to a should we.
Right. It's like, because we're trying to make a fun, compelling game, right? That you guys
we could make a realism simulator if we wanted to. We could put in some roads and some cars and some people like the guy around me in this morning's traffic who tried to go into the safety lane to get around me because there was 2 car spaces in front of me. We could do all of those things, but we don't want to do them. We ask the question, should we do this? Because a lot of times it opens up a Pandora's box that we just don't want opened. But sometimes we put those little touches in there, and it is really cool when you discover something like that happens only at nighttime and only happens during the daytime too. Or things like, I didn't stockpile food in spring, so when winter and fall rolls around, I'm just screwed.
And it may just be like, yep, everybody starves the first time, their first winter, because you don't think about it, and then...
Yes. Everyone runs around with the starving debuff, because eventually we're going to clean up those, hey, you can just log out to clear your food problems. And
don't get used to that.
All of that stuff will get cleaned up, and food will be important, because we always thought that it would be. Will hunger-affected mobs have shards on their loot tables? Okay, we already got that now. We're pulling those off. All Ganetians should have the blind effect when burrowed.
Again, that's one of those
that
would be realistic.
For us, it's just a data tag,
right?
But we shouldn't do that. Yeah. See, people killing themselves and all that other stuff. We need to make the food meter persistent such that, yeah, you need to go find food, and if you don't, you just suffer because you don't have food, right? Then your gameplay actually focuses on solving that problem before doing other things. It'll actually start to feel more like a game. No, not cars. Cats? Yes, we should clearly have cats. Cup of noodles.
Summer cats.
Where's the Lambo node located? Not yet. Yeah, animals have bone and blood. I don't know that they need additives. It's just a flat-out drop. Are you planning on redoing disciplines with all of the tech that you guys have added to the game since you originally designed disciplines? There will be... I mean, we will use the disciplines that we have, but I would expect at some point there will be a giant pass and we will prune abilities that we don't think are appropriate for the final launch. I mean, this is the game going forward. We're constantly pulling things out and adding things in. It's just at this point we have more carte blanche to just make wholesale changes,
right,
and not be apologetic about it because it's just you saw it in its early stages and we were either testing something or it just didn't end up how we wanted it to. Once we hit live, that becomes more difficult. But right now we kind of can make those big sweeping changes if we think we need to. I would anticipate us cutting some disciplines, cutting the weaker ones. That will probably be a thing so we can get a tighter list. We'll look and see what people aren't using and things like that. And maybe just ones that we didn't like. So we come up with a tighter list before launch. And we still have to add in the crafting disciplines. That definitely needs to be a thing. But yeah, there's going to be a lot of just us pruning. I mean, it's like a bonsai tree.
Yeah, I mean, surely we're going to add more post-launch as well. Right?
Absolutely.
That's not going to be the end of disciplines by a long shot.
But we built a tree, and now we need to go through and prune some things, and it will make the tree more pretty. Right, Jack?
More pretty.
More pretty. Confirms possible loot table difference in day-night cycle for boss mobs. Well, there's clearly a day-night cycle difference in the loot tables. We already have that. Hellcats have different loot tables than the Summer Hellcats, assuming the Summer Hellcats actually were a thing yet. They will be soon. But let me go out here, and I think we have... Mark put in a pole out here in the middle of nowhere, and next to that pole he put a boar and a hellcat, and the hellcat turns into the boar, basically to demo the tech. Again, this is how we do things. We use what we have to prove that the tech works, and then the content comes online and everything's just hunky-dory. I think it definitely wasn't over there by those guys. And since there's a hill here...
Man, see those god rays? Through the clouds?
Hey, look, that's working. I was worried there was a bug in dev last week. Yeah, at nighttime, see how dark it gets before the moon comes up? Where when you glided as a fae, you, instead of gliding, it slammed you no matter how high you were it snapped your pill to the ground. That was a fun one. I also think the effects are starting to look at nighttime. Bye, moon. Oh, hey, here's Hunger Shard prototype area. Look what I stumbled across. So in theory, these nodes should be shutting off this guy. Yep, see clearly, he's rank 2. Now, because develop doesn't have the bug fix for fly text on resource nodes, you will see something like frozen or whatever coming up when you try and hit a node. I really don't want to chop through all of these guys, but if I chopped through most of them, I would be able to harvest on this guy. Let's see if that tree... Oh, I don't have an axe. Damn it.
Is there any plan for lunar cycles that might affect the amount of light at night?
Is there...
In other words, it's always the full moon now. Is it not going to be the full moon someday? And the answer to that is probably.
Correct. Art will do their
art stuff.
Make it more pretty.
Weebles TV, if food is going to become such an important item, does it mean husbandry will be coming out soon or before off? We clearly want to have, if you mean animal husbandry, yes, because we need that for the mounts and the pets and the pack animals. But as far as growing crops and things like that, that's not necessarily required because we do have large meat sources which can be turned into brisket. And currently brisket gives plus 15 or 20. So the meats actually give a whole lot of food back. I will not give you that no mask because I'm going to keep that forever. How long do you realistically expect the day-night cycle to be in the final game? I would expect it probably... I think we're talking about 40 minutes now for a day and then 40 minutes for the night as kind of our initial points. The idea being that in one play session, you should at least see...
One transition.
One transition. That's also one of the reasons that we went to the creatures flipping at night cycle rather than at the season cycle. Because potentially if it was just at seasons, you would think Crowfall was always winterized creatures or it was always summer creatures. Just because of people's schedules of how many times they can log in a week. This way, during one play session, there should at least be a world flip. So everybody should at least see one cycle of day and one cycle of night if you have just a standard kind of 40-ish minute play cycle. What's the plan for casual logs in 15 minutes a day to the hobbyists to keep them playing? There's all kinds of, hopefully, things that they can do. I mean, clearly there's short-term play cycle things and long-term play cycle things. Pole dancing for apples. You can pole dance for Jack and he will give you apples.
Yeah, probably.
That's a thing. I am an AoE junkie. Is there a class for me in Crowfall? Yes, we have plenty of classes that have AoEs, and then the whole point of Crowfall's discipline system is disciplines are kind of like mini classes. You can customize your powers via taking 2 disciplines that align with AoEs. I'm not sure what Scree is talking about. Are you going to despawn the nodes when the hunger? We're just going to disable them and not.
I mean, the idea is that you can break the hunger crystals and free the nodes and get
Correct.
them, right? So if we just despawn them and made them go away, they wouldn't be there for you.
Not only that, the hunger shards don't always just spawn near resource nodes. So the hunger shard has a AoE, essentially. Just think of it as a very big AoE, that it will shut down the resource nodes that are inside it. If you just saw these in the world and they were despawning resource nodes, you wouldn't see any resource nodes and know if you had to break these or not.
Right, you'd be like, oh, there's a gold and there's a mega node there. I'm gonna smash these. And
Right, and since these things pile up over time, especially like around keeps and things like that, you may need to keep them clear, otherwise you're not going to be able to harvest. And you'll notice, just like everything else in Crowfall, there are 10 ranks. So the higher ranks of crystal are harder to break. I like how even the prototypey ones, I really like the glow at nighttime.
Yeah.
They
ghostly.
Oh, you'll notice this was a subtle change Mark got in before we locked the branch down from change, which is a node that is under the effect of hunger doesn't have sparklies. So this guy should be
subtle messaging.
Yeah, he should have sparklies. And let's see, does this guy have sparklies? Nope.
Sparklies.
He doesn't have sparklies. And neither does that one have sparklies. But all of these ones in the distance, you can see the light source on them, and you can see the sparklies. Will there ever be Hunger Crystal Motherloads? There might be. We are building them in the idea that we're going to have small, medium, and large sizes of those. The bigger the Hunger Crystal, the bigger the area of
effect.
Yep. I like how the spirit tools create a basically. This is our first.
You got your fire beetle eye.
Yeah, basically, that is our first fire beetle eye. Is
get through that black bro tunnel. Tell you what, man.
That black tunnel? Yes. Man, there's a lot of just random. Will there be relics that control weather, night, day? So yeah, maybe. I don't want to promise a lot of things. I'm just happy that we have the ability to do a lot of these things. These blocks are placeholder animations. Yes, yeah. So as I explained earlier, what you guys are looking at is very early prototype of stuff working in 5.7. Usually there's another few weeks of polish that we put on top of this where we get final art and things like that. Yeah. Clearly, the timing is so fast right now that it's not going to be anything like that, but it enables us to test. So when our engineers are coding, they like to see that the stuff that they're writing is actually working.
Yep, you can see that the shadows are actually dynamic, right? I mean, you won't see that in live. You won't see the, unless the sun's moving that fast, but I don't think it will be with 40-minute day night cycles.
So a lot of this stuff is placeholder, and we just do it to prototype, and then it gets polished up and sent out to the test center, and then into live, which is currently where 5.6 is. So this is the next update after 5.6 that we're showing today.
5.6 is on test.
5.6 is getting ready to go to live, though.
Yes.
Right? It is in the.
I didn't want you to freak anybody out.
Correct.
Right.
It is in the pipe 5x5. Been watching Aliens. So out
there
here,
you go. Yeah.
Yeah. So out here at this pole, So what's funny is the Hellcat
That
and the
Hellcat hates that pole.
he hates the boar. No, there's a boar
Oh,
there.
there's a boar. Okay.
Yeah, you see the two of them fighting in the distance?
I do.
I don't want to get too close. So we'll just keep chatting as those guys fight, and I think if if the boar respawns in time for the sun to go down, oh, he won. So in theory, he should swap over to a Hellcat.
The boar one?
Yeah, the boar one. You see him?
Man.
The Hellcat's dead. We should take bets. Animal fighting. All right, let's take.
Well, you know what though?
Hellcat versus boar. Who's gonna
I
win?
tell you, it depends on whether the Hellcat can hit with his tail attack. Otherwise, this wasting DPS. Boar, which does not have a tail attack, will just keep hitting and hitting and hitting. So my money's on the boar.
Money's on the boar.
Hey, it's Brandon.
Hey. Okay. Could we plant hunger shards for sabotage?
Hey, that's a good idea.
We hadn't talked about that, but
But hey, go hunger shard up the enemy keep.
will we see an expanded selection of hunger shards? Yeah, we'll probably Arcade. We will make a data pass on the actual effects that those things give. We haven't. Those were, I think we did those like 2 years ago, and they were like just we had attack power and crit at the time, so they're kind of limited. Spirit tools are new beacons. Yes, and at nighttime you'll be able to see someone in the distance if they've got their tool out. Halos to Kanos with no beetles in the Halos area.
Yeah, that's a desperate situation.
We love weather affecting us. Now make it challenging. Yeah, that's clearly a knob. Will we?
Is he gonna do it?
I don't know. I don't know if he has the data on him to flip, or if the Hellcat has the data.
Oh.
But I was clearly over here yesterday just watching these two. Because this is Mark's prototype area. Borland's, that's not Mark Hallish. Mark Borland. But I was watching and I saw one of them transform. Could you stop the night cycle at its darkest and run around for a while, make it very slow? Maybe. 5.6 is not live, but it is getting close. Moving while jumping is actually faster than just moving without looking, like your bunny on drugs. Is this intentional or something that will be changed?
I think that's already
Yeah,
changed.
we've already got that in I think it's in 5.6 actually. So people who were stealth jumping, it's no longer faster. Basically, you can never jump. The jump will always carry you the same height, but the distance that it carries you will actually be affected by your current movement. So if you jump in stealth, it'll take you, I don't know if that's 0.4 distance forward. Oh, hey, look. He's a Hellcat now. He shifted at nighttime. Cool. His buddy hasn't respawned, so he's just able to sit over there. I don't want to get too close. Oh, there's the other one. So he spawned at nighttime, so he came up as a Hellcat. Yeah, somebody else is watching the pick swapped. Now, they're not going to fight because I'm guessing the Hellcats are on the same faction.
They're just happy friends.
They're just happy friends. If they make it, don't.
What's he doing
I don't know
there?
why I don't know why he half sunk into the ground there.
He's digging a hole.
What do we got? Will new NPCs be coming out in 5.6? Yes. Mark has built 2 additional NPCs. Is working on another one. He turned into a boar, and now they're fighting. The daytime came up, and the one Hellcat turned into a boar. I don't know why the other one didn't. They don't all instantly flip. It's gradually over a short period of time, just so we don't basically depop the whole world and repop it. And clearly the one was too slow, and now they're going to fight for your amusement.
Truce ended. And the boar wins.
How will thralls interact with day and night? Not sure yet. We haven't got there. Scree says scroll back up to his question. It better be really good, Scree. The oak wasn't sparkling. Are you doing any balancing around the need to stockpile tools or to break hunger nodes when it might be impossible to get materials needed to make the tools in the first place? AK, is there a point where it might be impossible to harvest nodes because all the iron ore is blocked and people didn't stockpile? That sounds like it might be a thing.
It's conceivable.
It might happen. People don't take that hunger seriously. They're like that squirrel. There's got to be the old story of the squirrel.
Right. Well, it's just the grasshopper.
Oh, it's the grasshopper and
yes,
the...
that's what I said. The grasshopper. The grasshopper thing.
The grasshopper starves in winter.
Don't be a grasshopper.
Don't be the grasshopper.
Unless you have ant friends to feed you, then you can grasshopper all day, actually. But
do ants and grasshoppers eat the same thing?
I think actually ants eat grasshoppers, probably.
Yeah.
For the most part.
So they want them to starve.
Like, yes, starve.
Will the hunger shards give my character debuff? We had talked about them doing things like snaring you when you run through them and things like that. We haven't solidified what they're going to do to the players yet.
Sit there and tick damage over time.
Well, that would make it hard to harvest because then you'd get dizzy.
It really would.
Non-stop. Unless you had spawning loaded out. Simulate latency. I don't think there is a lot of latency on the test server in our most recent tests. It's FPS and not... Yeah, that is a latency and not a FPS simulator. Any class changes coming in 5.7? There will clearly be some bugs fixed.
Yeah, no changes. No changes per se unless it's related to a bug fix.
Yeah. So the pig's just there chilling. Sun's going down. Let's see what happens to him. About the jumping answer, awesome. Yeah, it was just a piece. That was just yet another pebble on the mountain of pebbles that we had to do. Soul Reaver. A lot of times it's just, yep, we know about it. We just didn't have engineering time, and or we've kind of put some of those off until later.
Yeah.
Are you close to adding crafting discs? We are evaluating crafting without this key piece. Yeah. You guys also don't have the projects UI and some of the stuff that was that's on Charlie's plate right now.
Soon.
Is the Faith fast falling sideways flying intentional? I'm not sure what fast falling sideways is. It's probably something horrifying. If you guys have come up with a
Probably
moniker
not.
for it,
Yeah.
then usually that is bad. The change from pig to Hellcat. I'm guessing that there's probably... Oh, the Doggett, the change phase, he built the transmorph.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
We probably don't have that to show.
Yeah, we don't have that to show. What's funny is they're not fighting now.
They're at peace.
By the time you guys see this, who knows what they'll be doing.
Yeah.
They'll be having tea
And it
together.
won't be pigs turning into Hellcats either.
Right.
A lot of times engineers will purposely do something wrong and bad so that it doesn't go live.
So it's a bug, and it
No,
comes
no.
out.
So I mean, it's the whole, you know, many a programmer, an engineer has been has made a piece of programmer art that was just good enough and never gets changed. And they're like, why are you still using that? No, I was never supposed to go live. Why?
Will NPCs change their form mid-fight if it's time for them to change? No. If they're currently engaged in combat, they retain their form. What about giants? So a lot of the humanoid forms don't have hunger forms. Currently, right now, the hunger forms are limited to creatures and not humanoids. Will sickle be fixed? That is such a random non-question.
The answer is yes.
Yeah, yes.
If we keep having sickle as a weapon, it will be fixed.
No, Frostweaver is not 5.7. I wouldn't anticipate Frostweaver until beta/alpha.
Yeah.
We've just got other...
There's a pretty good list of tech what we need for the Frostweaver too.
Not only that, it's just we have to build... Like, each of these creatures takes probably... Like, one creature is half of a class for us.
Roughly.
Maybe,
right? I mean, it's like,
maybe a third.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of stuff, right? It's more than just powers, right? There's like the combat strategies, and it takes multiple, right? It's usually basically, you know, me doing the designy stuff, and then for 2 or 3 weeks of that on top of animation and effects.
Oh yeah, the entire package, but on us,
it's a lot of
just the power work and the AI strategies.
Yeah, that's 2 or 3 weeks easy.
Right, which is easily half a class for us.
That's before it gets live, and it's like, okay, then what's actually bugs and whatever. So I mean, it's a lot of work.
I don't think we're in any rush to get to the Frostweaver, despite you guys may wanting it. We are in rush to get a whole bunch more NPCs in the game, so that it's not just Hellcats and zombies and now spiders. We want to kind of flesh that out because we should have more than we have. Mm-hmm. So we want to kind of get that up there so the environment has some fun elements. Could we get carbon to stack greater than 20? Coal is stacking nice, but carbon is still only 20. I'll put that on my list to see what the numbers are. I have no clue about NPCs fighting would just be dancing.
So he's so basically, if we have
pseudo,
play fighting basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right now we don't have an easy.
We don't. Right. We probably would not want them actually. We don't like NPCs generally fighting themselves because that just makes it easier for you to kill them. So.
Yes. Oh, that's a Jack question. Yeah, again, Anthrage, we didn't know exactly what you're referring to. So if you said, hey, the sickle doesn't do this, can you fix this? That's different to, will the sickle be fixed?
Yeah.
Just clarifying things there. What about those old zombie player models we used to see of classes? Yeah, the Risen. We've gone away from using them. We want to get in the stuff that we really want and not stuff that we kind of patched in because that was a model we had. Right. Will armor weapons infused with hunger shards change the day-night cycle? Glowing, so I could see them as a light source, right? Similar to how that adds a light source to you.
No, that said, a weapon that changes with day and night might be a cool magical weapon.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is something we plan on doing.
So, we have been playing with math. And if you remember the old version of the ore specialization tree, it went off the screen and was very high, and there was a lot of spacing. And we decided that we could do fun things with math and make it all pretty. And yeah, we can add radial designs now. Now, let's talk about, so a tree like this, when you came into it, the center node is the one that is unlocked first, and then you can pick your path, and each of these is colored based on the resource type. And then we move the mastery down over here to the right, and we're going to get a slight new piece of tech, which says you can't start spending points in that until you've bought the entire tree. So expect that philosophy to start shifting into once we have that piece of tech. So when you look at like animal specialization, it only has 3 branches, and so it looks like a fidget spinner. Same mastery node concept where you need to buy the entire tree and it's not linked, and we may bring that back even into earlier trees where you don't kind of just rush to the end to get those 4 and then buy the mastery node. It actually requires the whole tree purchase. That way we can put even cooler things into the mastery node when it's no longer possible to kind of just cheese it to the, because the whole point of that thing was it's super cool, it's super powerful, it's worth way more, which we kind of put some really nice things in there, which led to the behavior of people trying to get to it faster. But the idea is that is your overall reward for finishing the tree. And so the other one that was slightly different was grave specialization, which they have 1 less node than the others, so it just leads to more like a flower or kind of pinwheel. It's not as because it's missing that initial or that secondary node right there. So I think that this kind of fun, you'll start seeing more of this, and it's kind of cool when we get to the point where we're iterating and we're able to put things in like this. We're like, hey, wouldn't it be fun if I did this rather than your standard flow of left to right, and everything looks like the new the Millennium Falcon with the front edge on it before they pulled the thing off, apparently, because that's a thing now. So anyways, back on topic here. Yeah, this one really doesn't have a mastery node, but clearly once we have the concept of train everything and we just have that little node off to the right, we can add it. But we can also make all kinds of cooler trees that are now radial based. We could do spirals now that we have proven that this tech works. It's kind of cool with the skill tree revamp that the nodes could now flow left to right, up or down. And the idea is by the time you get here, you've been playing Crowfall for long enough that you know how the trees work, and this is something new. So it's not the standard, oh, I just flow from left to right. Strather, Last Jedi sucks. You're absolutely correct. We need a better visual while in the current tree to tell you when you can jump to the next tree. Okay. I will bring that up to the UI guys. What kind of market system are you guys planning for release? Are you going to go with the market board auction house idea? So we have player run vendors in 5.5, and in 5.6 you can become a vassal to another player and put a player run vendor in their world. So as part of 5.6, I'm guessing that Onrez is going to expand out his Duber Shack into a multiplayer Duber Shack. So you'll see vendors from everybody starting to appear that. I want to see that happen. Because the idea is there will be giant worlds that people naturally congregate on, and they just put lots of vendors there that are run by lots of people. So if Onrez has a lot of jewelry or necromancy goods, and Jack makes a lot of armor, and Halish makes a lot of weapons, then there are vendors there that are constantly stocked, so it becomes a marketplace.
It is 12:01.
Okay, so any big last questions? Please don't rush the release. We are trying not to.
As you wish.
And we definitely, I mean, that's why 5.6 took so long, is we had some problems that we really needed to work through over on the tech side. And hopefully with what you're seeing in 5.6, hopefully large battles won't be a problem anymore like they were in 5.5. And are there multiple worlds? There are, in fact, multiple campaign worlds. But that's a bigger question, and I'm not going to explain it all right now because that involved doing pretty much a pitch for the entire game. The change where the spawn-on damage orbs appear at the caster and not at the target. There are still issues in consuming them, though. Yeah, I'm not sure. So the orbs have kind of had this tumultuous history of you're only supposed to see them if they're yours. You're only supposed to see them if they're groups. And clearly some of those things keep breaking because you can see everybody's now. It's a big just mess of orbs. You're only supposed to be able to see orbs that you can pick up. So if they're orbs that only you can use, then only you should see them.
Unless it's getting ready to explode.
Unless it's getting ready to explode like Blight, and then everybody can see it. Basically, if you can be affected by that thing, you should see it before it affects you. Cooking is on the... we haven't built all the recipes for it. We will clearly get more into it when we get more food items in there. We are using Unity, as you can see in the background here. I am in the Unity editor right now. And if I unmaximize this, you can see all of the things that I have cooking. And I had a power in the background there. Rune gates for 5.7? Maybe. And we get one question left. Any plans for us to build light sources or even to feed them via Hippo system? Basically like a big giant beacon? Yeah.
Yeah. Lanterns, torches.
Basically when we get...
like lighthouses. Oh,
yes.
Yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, so we're approaching the point where design has a lot of Legos, and we can start putting those Legos together in fun ways to build some interesting content or some interesting tools for you guys to play with. So you're going to start seeing way more stuff of us combining hey, light sources, hey, props, hey, hippos. We put them all together and place a hippo to build a prop that has a light source on it. Yeah, so you're going to see a lot of stuff like that. Okay.
Up, down, down, left, right, BA start. Is your cheat code?
Thanks, Alice. Okay, well, thanks everybody for coming out for the second live stream of the month, which we tend to show you something new. The next video thing I think that you and I are doing will be the Q&A for next month, which will be in a couple weeks. So thanks everyone for showing up, and have a good week. And we can't wait to see you when 5.6 goes live very soon.
See you next time.
See you next time.